Hey, Faith family, welcome to Behind the Sermon and More. So today I'm super excited. I've got a friend of mine who is on staff with us, but has been attending our church for how long? What would you say?
A little over 3 years.
All right, a little over 3 years. So, man, it's crazy. Time flies, but you need to know who this guy is. So this is Nicholas Miller. He is the man. I like most things about Nicholas. One of the things I don't like is he's an LSU grad.
That's right. Go Tigers.
Come on, man. Go Tigers. There's worse schools for sure. But brother, we're excited to have you on here. Our goal today is just to spend a little bit of time getting to know Nicholas. He has a really cool story. Most people do. I find this to be Nicholas, true about most people, man. When you get to know them and you kind of hear their background, what they walk through, I love hearing their stories. Fascinating.
Oh, man.
So yours is one of those. I've really enjoyed just kind of hearing more about your story, and over the years getting to know you more. I'm learning just kind of those nuggets about you, right?
Sure.
This is a part of my growing up, or this is a part of how the Lord saved me, and those pieces all coming together are pretty beautiful, man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just take a little bit of time to talk through that. So we're going to get to that in just a minute. Before that, we've got some really important questions to get to. Are you ready for these?
Yeah.
Okay,
Bring
you sure?
them on. Yes,
all right,
sir.
I know you didn't prepare for this, but here you go. All right, so I know you're Cajun, right?
That's right.
You're from the Low Country.
That's right.
But what's your favorite food, man? It's okay if you go against your culture. It is crawfish.
It is crawfish. Crawfish is my favorite food.
Okay,
And,
so how are those prepared? Like what's the go-to?
man, basically, I'm no chef, but you just get a big old pot and you throw a bunch of seasoning in, throw some corn, potatoes, the crawfish, boil them and all that, mix it up, and then when it's ready, you just lay them on these. We always bring out like a bunch of fold-out tables, and we just lay them on the tables and go to town.
That's Louisiana right there, man.
It's awesome.
That's
I love
Louisiana
crawfish.
right there.
Yeah.
Lots of butter too, right?
Lots
Butter,
of
garlic,
butter.
all the things.
Of course.
Yes, I went to seminary in New Orleans, so I have a little bit of the culture in me from Louisiana, but yeah, the food is a big deal, man.
Oh yeah,
And
we love food,
yeah.
and we know how to cook. Well,
Know
not
how to
me,
do it.
but everybody else.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. All right, do you have a favorite book?
I think I got a few.
Okay.
Are we looking for the theological answer?
Anything. It could be anything.
Okay. Honestly, the first one that comes to mind was a favorite one from my childhood.
Okay.
It's called Darkwing.
Okay.
By Kenneth Opel.
Okay.
It's a kind of a crazy book, especially for kids, but you want me to tell you what it's about?
Sure. Yeah, I have no idea. Sure.
Okay. So there's a lot going on in this book, but yeah, it's written for, I think, like young teenagers. I read it in third grade.
Okay. Is that because you're that much smarter than
I
everybody
guess
else?
so. I would say so.
And humble too. That's awesome.
right. The most humble. No, essentially it's about these bats, but they can't fly. It's like, so there's a lot of like, I guess it's based on like evolution and prehistoric time periods and stuff like that. But it's like, according to this book, before bats were bats, they were just these bat-like creatures who could glide, but they couldn't fly. But there's this one that can fly, and because of that, he stands out. He's kind of like an outcast, like he gets kicked out of the family, but he finds people who are like him. And then there's this other group of animals that are like these cheetah creatures, but they're herbivores, but one starts to like the taste of meat, and for that same reason he gets kicked out. And then they end up kind of invading these bat creatures' home, and there's like a little war.
That sounds fascinating. We grew up very differently. Hey, so any other books?
I loved it.
That's so glad. I'm really glad you shared that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just as a kid, I just remember loving it
Yeah.
so much
Yeah,
that
dude.
it holds that special place
That's cool.
in my heart.
Yeah.
This other one, this one's a little bit more heady, but
Okay.
Confessions by Augustine.
Yeah.
I think it's a very powerful and rich book theologically.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool, and it holds a special place in my heart too, because that's the first book I read as a Christian.
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
somebody handed to you, or
yes,
what? Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So my brother is a professing Christian and
Okay.
Loves the Lord, and whenever I got saved by Jesus, I just remember talking to him about it, and he knew I was kind of into philosophy and all of that. He is as well. So
Okay.
he said, I think you would really like this book. And so he gave it to me. And that was the first book I read as a Christian.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
it was awesome.
That is a big book to read as
It
a
is.
new believer.
It is. Yeah.
So you may not remember this, but what were some of your primary takeaways like after you read that book?
From that book? Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot, and it has been a few years since I read it. But I think in the opening chapters, he talks a lot about his early life and just his secular education. And I appreciated his take on it because he talked a lot about how essentially the things he was studying was just the pursuit of empty knowledge and applause. When you're pursuing things apart from God, that's essentially all that it is. You're just pursuing praise for yourself and knowledge that ultimately has no real meaning because you've removed essentially the creator of these things that you're learning about. And he just reflects on his time in that school and just how that's what he sought after was the approval of his peers.
Yeah.
And just how empty that left him feeling, even as he was pursuing these things. Like he never really found a lot of purpose, and that ended up being something that God used in his walk and in his pursuit of Christ. And I related to that a little bit just in where I was before.
Yeah, and like in
Christ.
your search, right? Because I think the book's it's a perfect paradox, isn't it? Of like running from and searching for.
Yes.
God, that's like that.
Yes.
That entire story is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, what a book to read! Wow,
Yeah,
man,
it's
I can
cool.
tell your brother is into philosophy.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Yeah, it has to be.
He's the smartest guy.
We're gonna get into this a little bit, but you come
Okay.
from a family that highly intelligent, man.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean,
We'll
my
talk
brother.
about that.
My family's pretty smart.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. We'll get into that in just a minute.
Okay.
All right, so a couple more questions before we dive into your story. Do you have a favorite sport?
Football.
For sure,
Definitely
football.
College football. I mean,
LSU.
LSU football.
Yeah.
Come on.
The most obnoxious fans in college football are LSU.
Yes, absolutely. And there's good and bad to that.
Yeah, true. That's
there's
cool, man.
parts I'll take and accept and be a champion for, and then there's parts I'll disassociate with. Be like, I don't know that.
That's funny. I ask almost every guest this. Do you drink coffee?
I do drink coffee.
Well, like, how do you drink it?
I just drink it black most of the
Do
time.
you really?
Yeah. I
Let's
do.
go, man.
I do.
That's
I mean, I like
awesome.
to have some fun. Like if I go to a coffee shop and they have unique flavors, then I'll
Okay.
get something like that.
Okay.
But no, 9 days out of 10, I just drink it black.
Are you like an all-day coffee drinker, or is it just in the morning and you're good to go?
Lately it's just been in the morning.
Okay.
I kind of go through phases depending on where I'm at with school and work.
Yeah, true.
But I try and limit myself to 2 cups a day.
Oh, that's good.
Which I don't want to go
Yeah.
too crazy with it.
Yeah,
you know,
don't go
but-
too crazy. You're still in your 20s.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
You gotta save all the craziness for later.
That's right.
That's good,
That's
man.
right.
All right, last question in this realm of things. Do you have a favorite movie?
A favorite movie? I gotta say Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I love Lord of the Rings.
Nice. Have you read the
Yeah.
books?
I haven't read the books.
Okay. I've not read the books or seen the movies.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm gonna
just
have
full
people
confession.
who make fun of me
Yeah.
for that.
Nah, dude. Nah, it's fine. Yeah. If there's a movie, watch it, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Nah.
Yes.
So I can tell you I've read, this is like a confession that I shouldn't make, but I have on Sunday morning, so I might as well share here. I've read several Nicholas Sparks books.
Okay.
You've heard me say
Yes.
that, right? Like, so
Yes.
and I'm a little bit ashamed of it, but dude, he's such a good writer, man. And then
Sure.
my first book that I read was when we went to St. Augustine, Florida. This is when we were living in Florida. They have some outlets there, and my wife wanted to go. I think it was Christmas shop or something. I can't remember.
Okay.
But I was done in like 10 minutes. I was like, "Yo, you ready to
wow.
go? You know, like you ready to go?" And she's like, "Like I'm literally in the first store, you know." So I went to the Commons area. They had a Nicholas Sparks book. I can't remember which one it was. But there was for sure a movie made after it. Mm-hmm. I read the book and watched the movie, and the movie was compelling, but the movies can't capture everything in the books.
Right.
That's just the reality.
Yeah,
So you probably do
absolutely.
get more from the books, but at the same
Yes.
time, the movies can be quite compelling. So
sure.
I'm a fan of both.
Yeah.
There's probably some, I don't know, it's kind of like historical fiction too, right? Like, which the books I'm speaking of are
Sure.
totally fiction. But when you watch a movie that's based on history, you have to add that historical fiction nature because they're going to have to fill in gaps, right? And I think that even happens from book
Sure.
to movie. It's like,
Yeah.
I may put some things in the movie that aren't in the book to try to like make a better film.
Sure.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Different story. Hey, you ready to dive into your story?
I'm ready.
Listen, dude, this
do
is
it.
how we'll do this. I'll probably interject from time to time just some questions that may pop up. But can you go back to your childhood and kind of walk us through? We want to ultimately get to
Yeah.
how Jesus saved you. That's
Yeah.
like the big thing. But kind of walk us through a little bit of your story, man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll just start, I guess, from square one. Childhood.
Let's go.
You know, I'm about to reveal a deep, dark secret, actually, Zeb.
Okay, go for
so,
it.
raised in Louisiana, right? Raised in Louisiana. My whole family's from Louisiana,
Okay.
but I don't tell people this. I spent my first 2 years of my life in enemy territory in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
No.
I'm not even joking.
So were you
Yes.
born in Louisiana?
I was born in Tuscaloosa,
You were born in Alabama. Oh,
and it's my
okay.
deepest, darkest secret.
Yeah, that is sad, man.
It is sad. It's a shame. But my dad, so his first job as a doctor was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And
Is that
so-
where University of Alabama is?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
It's
yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
Gotcha.
So my feet touched enemy soil.
Wow, man.
Before-
You're actually, not only did your feet touch there, dude, you're born there.
That's crazy.
That's actually your heritage. That's your
know.
home.
No, it's not.
All right, so your dad's
Yes.
first job was it his residency or was he?
No, he did his
Okay.
residency at Baylor, actually, in Texas,
Texas,
which is
yeah.
where they had my brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he go to Baylor?
For his residency, he did.
But
Yeah.
where did he?
But he went to med school at LSU.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, then he got his first job in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they lived there a few years and eventually had me, which is not, I don't even remember it, so it doesn't
Sure.
count, you know? But then they moved back to Louisiana.
Okay.
But so
2
yeah,
years old, you moved back to Louisiana.
Around
Your
that,
family, around
yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, so Louisiana, that's where my whole family is. That's where I grew up. Have a lot of fun memories. Grew up with great parents. We didn't grow up in a super Christ-centered family. We went to church once or twice a year.
Okay.
Maybe talked about God every now and then, but it was nothing like me and you, like how you raise your family.
Sure.
And how I would want to raise my family.
Sure.
That just wasn't there.
Sure.
But still had amazing parents who loved me well, took care of us. Like for I guess looking at them, you would say they embodied what it meant to be Christian parents, just in terms of their character. Maybe we didn't have that teaching there and that worship there.
Yeah.
But they were just people of character, and they loved us. So I had a great childhood, man. I had a lot of friends, great parents. My dad was successful, so we went on fun adventures, and he had enough to take care of us, and then some.
Wow.
And I was close with my family. Like I'd go hang out with my cousins, and we'd go ride around 4-wheelers.
Nice.
Go in fields and kick crawfish nests.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
are basically just these little mud towers that jut out of the
Yeah.
ground. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
for sure,
Yeah,
for sure,
So we
yeah.
just go around like kicking those.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And hanging out in the woods and going swimming in creeks, and that was a large part of my childhood, and
It's pretty awesome, man.
so fun.
Yeah. So
fun.
talking about the intelligence that you inherited, and it's kind of in your family. I mean, your dad being a well-known doctor, right? What did he practice?
Yeah, so he was a radiologist.
Radiologist, yeah.
And he was, one of the most, I guess, revered radiologists in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And even maybe in like a couple neighboring states.
Yeah.
But he graduated from LSU Med School, did his residency in Baylor, and eventually made his way back to Louisiana, where he joined the Baton Rouge Radiology Group, which was a small group of I don't know the exact number. I want to say like 10 of the best radiologists
Okay.
in the state, and they would kind of travel around the state to do work. And so yeah, he was I guess in the state of Louisiana, like the best of the best in the field of radiology.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, brilliant. Definitely like one of the smartest people you'll ever meet.
It's amazing.
And he was he kind of did it all. He was like a do it all kind of guy. I mean, he was a musician.
Wow.
Which is where
you play the guitar?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
That's where I got my appreciation for guitar from. And you know, he could play by ear. I can do a little bit of that as well.
Wow.
But yeah, he played guitar, was brilliant, star athlete in high school, and in great shape his whole life. Like he was just a really talented, awesome guy.
That's amazing. So let's fast forward a little bit because I love hearing about your dad. You've talked to me at length about your dad, and it just really seems to be a special relationship that you had, special childhood. But man, you had some tragedy strike. High school? You were in high school when this happened?
Yeah,
do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, sure. It was awful. You know, my dad, he died right before I graduated high school. I was 19, and it was actually the day before spring break, and me, him, and a couple of my buddies were gonna go on a trip to Utah to go skiing. I snowboard, but they all skied. So it was the night before we were supposed to leave for that, and he had a brain aneurysm, and you know, the basically the last thing he said to me was, "Dinner's ready," and I was just hanging out in my room, and I probably delayed a few minutes and walked downstairs, and you know, I was kind of in the kitchen with my mom, and we were setting up for dinner, and he wasn't there. You know, we didn't know where he had gone, but she was like, "Go look for your dad. Bring him in. You know, we're about to eat." And so I walk around the house, can't find him, and I go into my backyard, and he was dead. He was just dead in my backyard, lying down. And I ran to his body, and I held him. I knew he was dead when I saw him.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to do. I ran and I held them, and
I'm sorry, man. Yeah. I know even to this day, that's a tough thing to process and to think through, and even the mental picture and all the things. I know that's tough, man. I'm sorry that happened. Yeah. So, talk to me about your response after that. You're now graduating high school, right? Your dad, who is your best friend, someone you looked up to, someone who had all these gifts and loved you well, is gone. And you're trying to figure out next steps. And so you go to LSU. Is that kind of your next step?
Yeah.
Talk about what life looked like then for you.
Yeah, well, everything changed in that moment for sure. I mean, I was a little bit of a knucklehead in high school anyway, but definitely became more of a knucklehead after that.
Yeah.
We had just lost to us, especially without that relationship with Christ. I mean, like, in a lot of ways, my dad and my mom's husband was like the backbone of our family, you know? And we just kind of broke after that. I mean, and in a lot of ways are still recovering just as a family dynamic, you know? But my mom was never the same, especially in that moment. I mean, she was broken, and so in some ways I lost my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
And for me, I lost my best friend, my dad, my compass in a way of life, you know. It's like, where do I move? Well, I just move in the direction of my dad, you know, like making decisions that he would make or that would make him proud. And now he's not there. So it's like, I don't have that anymore. I just kind of went off the rails a little bit, you know, went through high school, just coasted through the rest of high school, and going into college, just lost myself in the party scene.
Okay.
You know, that's kind of how I filled that void. That became the meaning of life.
So freshman year, did that ramp up significantly?
Yes.
And just progressively got
Worse.
crazier?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you find yourself, what's the best way to ask this? I'm going to try to be like craft my words the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find yourself tethering to certain things? Like, and what I mean by that is like, was alcohol something that you would just almost find yourself becoming addicted to, or drug use or whatever? Did you find yourself tethering? You don't have to talk about specifically what it is, but was there a shift somewhere in your life where it was like recreational to,
Yes.
I need it. And then this is like to survive every day. This is my pursuit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, in high school, I was a bit of a knucklehead.
Yeah.
Definitely like recreational then. Never felt like something I needed to get through life. But it was in my head, my lostness. It was fun.
Sure.
You know, and that's kind of how it started off in college, but it just ramped up very quickly, and it just became, man, anything that makes me feel different, anything that gets my mind off of the brokenness in my life, that's what I'm pursuing. That's what I'm worshiping. That's what I'm going after. And I'll do anything to get that.
Yeah.
Like, I had friends who I stole from,
Wow.
cash from. My brother, I stole cash from him just to be able to buy alcohol, buy drugs, or get into bars, just to give myself access to these things that I just wanted to run after, eventually, daily, for sure. And if I didn't have something like that, the day was miserable, and it was hard to get through. So the psychological addiction was there super quickly, and eventually, even physical addiction as well.
So you had a dependency for sure, and it sounds like it was just progressively getting worse. When did you recognize, okay, this is a problem?
Probably about a year of living that lifestyle. You know, you just kind of watch the people that begin to creep into your life, your circle of influence, and it was just getting a little worse, a little sketchier. You know, at first it was like a bunch of hippies.
Yeah.
Because we all liked to do drugs.
Yeah.
And as bad as that was, they were never malicious.
Yeah.
You know? But then you just have people that start to creep in, and people who are, now you're not just hanging out with the drug consumers, like, you know, drug dealers, and then you see the people that they know, and and even some of the situations people who are using drugs are in. Yeah. And you're like, this is where I'm going. This is not good. Like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to end up addicted to some really hard things, and I'm going to end up like living in the slums or just homeless. Like,
so you recognize that God's common grace, like you recognized, hey, this is I'm on a trajectory that's not helpful. All right. So this eventually led you to go somewhere. Can you talk about where you went, how you got there? And then we want to get into that experience a little bit.
Yeah. When I recognized that, I just asked myself, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing with my life? And then began to ask, what should I be doing? Is there a reason I should be doing anything else? You know, that question, like, what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Existentially, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Is there a point to anything? And I sort of decided in that moment is like, I'm going to pursue truth. I'm going to try and find truth. And whatever truth is, I'm going to deal with it. And whether that means there's no truth, or truth is subjective, or there is an objective truth. And for truth to be truth, it has to be objective.
Yep, that's right.
You know, but in my head, I was like, okay, well, if there's no truth, then I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing until I die. You know, because there's no reason I shouldn't. You know, if we're all just born to die and there's no meaning for existence, then why not? You know, but if there is truth, if there is something, then I'm going to find out what that is and I'll deal with it when I face it. But genuinely had an openness to whatever it would be.
Okay.
And that didn't immediately just, like, I kept living like I was living. But in the midst of all of that, I was reading, I was doing some homework, so to speak, just with some history, philosophy, world religions. I had one good friend in my life who I was not a good friend to, but he was a Christian. His name was Jonas Boot. If you ever listen to this. Yeah, I know.
What a name.
I know.
That's a strong name.
I know.
I like that.
He was awesome.
Okay.
But he would invite me to church, small groups, and just do a little bit of ministering to me, And so there was definitely seeds that were planted in that, and even questions that it helped me ask. And I guess, long story short, after about a year-long process of this, I came to the understanding that the Bible is true and God is the God of the Bible, and I need to do something about that.
Yeah.
Because that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so you ended up going to Jacksonville, Florida?
Around that area.
Around that area, okay.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Like, you realized that you needed help beyond yourself.
Yes.
You're searching truth. You're like, okay, something needs to be done, and something needs to be done now. So tell us about that place you went to.
So, I ended up going to a place called Honey Lake in Florida.
Yeah.
And right before I went there, shortly after this understanding that the Bible was real, the Holy Spirit convicted me. I was probably in that understanding the Bible is real for about a week before the Holy Spirit put me on my knees one morning where I was just about to do the same thing I'd always done.
Sure.
And put me on my knees, convicted me of my sin, told me I need Jesus. And in that moment, I knew I needed Jesus to rescue me, or I was going to hell. I'm just like everybody without Jesus,
Right.
But for me, I guess some of our sin is more, from our perspective, under the radar.
Yeah.
But mine was so apparent.
Yeah.
It was just like, I got on my knees and I cried out for help, and Jesus saved me, and he changed my heart in that moment. And not everything changed instantly, because I'm pretty sure that day I still did what I was going to do.
Sure.
But what was different is I was convicted now, and I was looking for a way out. I was praying. I didn't want it anymore. My sinful flesh was very tied to it and addicted to it. So I still did it. But I guess I was repentant in my heart, and shortly that did lead to action, which is how I ended up at Honey Lake.
Yeah.
I knew I needed some help because I knew that I couldn't do this on my own, or I didn't trust myself to do it on my own. And I think that's how it is with all sin. You gouge the eye out because you're going to look for excuses or loopholes, so to speak.
Yeah. That's good. What's interesting about that text too, and I love hearing you talk about this because, Jesus talks about if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out,
Right.
your arm, chop it off, like whatever. And given the context there, the point is you could do that all day long, and you would literally dismember your entire body because, like, hey, welcome to humanity.
Yeah.
His point with the Pharisees and really all the disciples around him is like, listen, this is a heart thing. Like, until your heart is severed, which sounds like the work that the Lord was doing in you was that obvious heart work.
Sure.
Until that is healed, man. Until you have a new heart, until you have this new drive to follow and pursue Jesus, like, of course your eye, of course your hand, of course, like, all these things are going to continue to be true until your heart changes. And the truth is, like, welcome again to humanity and our own depravity.
Amen.
Like, the rest of our days, we're going to contend with sin,
right? But
there's now a fight.
Yes.
Whereas in the past, there's no fight, right? There's like, hey, man, I'm going to keep pursuing all the things that feel right, make me feel good, that provide pleasure, because I believe, mistakenly, but I believe that the pursuit of these things is going to cause me ultimate happiness.
Right.
Like, so the pursuit of pleasure gives me joy, and that's like the lie that we buy into. But when the Lord changes our heart, like, you were still doing some of those same things, but here's what was happening. the happiness and the joy was definitely not
No,
the end.
it wasn't,
It
right.
was quite the opposite, right?
Yes.
Conviction
Yes.
and remorse,
Miserable
and shame
doing it.
and guilt
Yes.
and condemnation. But in Christ, the shame's lifted, the guilt's lifted, the condemnation was lifted, and
Yeah.
the new heart is given.
Yes.
Right. So you're at Honey Lake, you're doing the work. God's sanctifying you, growing you. Something kind of cool happens at Honey Lake, bro. Like, I know that for some people it's not a big deal. I think you downplay it too, which is fine. You can do that. But you get baptized at Honey Lake.
Yeah.
You get dunked, fully immersed.
Yes.
And tell us who did that baptism.
Willie Robinson.
Let's go, dude. Willie Robinson. So for those of you that don't know who that is, you've heard of Duck Dynasty. And Willie Robinson is the guy, I think maybe like the CEO of whatever their duck call business is
Something
now.
like that. Yeah.
But it's really cool, man, to see that like a fellow Cajun
yes.
from Monroe,
Tigers.
Louisiana.
A fellow
Go
Tiger.
Tigers. Yeah. I think he went to the smaller school, the Raging Cages school. What is that one?
ULL, University
Yeah,
of Louisiana.
maybe. Is there one in
Lafayette.
Monroe?
Raging Cajuns. ULM, University
that's-
of Louisiana Monroe.
Maybe that's where he went. I can't remember. One of the two.
Okay, I'm
But
not sure.
but he's the guy that baptized you, bro.
Yeah, he did.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
awesome.
assuming he came in like as a guest speaker at Honey
Yes,
Lake.
he did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you realized that you had not followed in your public profession of faith, being biblically baptized, right?
Yeah.
And he was doing some dunking that day. And you were
Yeah, he
like, hey.
was. Yeah. Well, so they had, I think like the day before he came to speak, actually, they had asked who wanted to get baptized. It was like a room of 30 of us who were in this recovery program.
Yeah.
And that was from drugs to sexual addiction, gambling, but we were all there to get help. But they asked, like, raise your hand if you want to get baptized, and like, we're going to get this list made and this organized. And so I raised my hand. That was before I had even seen Willie there. But the next day, he came and gave his testimony, and he was baptizing.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah,
That's
got
awesome, bro.
baptized by Willie.
Well, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stop here for now. We're 30 minutes in. So we're going to do a part 2. Okay.
Okay.
And so for those of you that are listening, part 2 will release right after this one, the week after. When do we release? Every week, every other week? Whatever our rhythms are, part 2 will release right after this, part 1. So we've made it through childhood. Nicholas, we've talked about some of the heartache with obviously your dad's passing. We've talked about how you spiraled a little bit out of control, or maybe a lot out of control in college with some dependency on things that were not for your good. The Lord in his kindness rescued you from that. You end up removing yourself from that situation, going to Honey Lake as a repentant follower of Jesus, and you followed through in believer's baptism, baptized by Willie Robinson.
Yes.
And that's cool, man. So we'll pause there. I want to hear the rest of your story, man. And I think everyone else does as well. So, hey, for now, we love you, Faith Family. I hope this has been a blessing to you. We'll catch you next time as we finish Nicholas Miller's story. Nicholas, thanks, man.
Yeah, of
How you
course.
doing?